Welcome to the 9 Lessons of Mastery to Live a More Excellent Life. I am J. Loren Norris, author of Live a More Excellent Life, creator of InTheSuperBowl.org, and creator of the 9 Lessons of Mastery to Live a More Excellent Life. Today, your lesson will be to learn the mastery of your natural resources. Master your natural resources. Today's title, Elephant Seeds and TTTNA. By that I mean time, talent, treasure, and attention. The topic is control the input, control the output. What do you invest? Where? Whatever you plant, that's going to grow. If your vision is to grow, you need to plant the seeds of activity right now that will produce the fruit of your vision in the future. Audio file is Elephant Seeds. I was baffled when I was reading about the amount of time that it takes to grow carrots. Have you ever studied that? Do you know how much it varies? When you plant carrot seeds in one area, it can take 9 to 10 to 12 months to grow them. In another area, 18 months to grow them. On average, though, it takes about 18 months. It takes about 36 months to grow a baby elephant. Did you know that? It takes about 9 months on average to grow a baby human. But you know, there's a particular thing to that fascinates me. I've never known anyone to plant an elephant seed and come harvest time go back looking for carrots. I've never known anyone to plant cherry seeds and come back expecting to pick jalapenos. I've never known anyone who planted rabbit seeds and expected to come back and find giraffes. I mean, when you find out that a woman is with child and she's going to have a baby, you never ask, will it be a cat? You might ask boy or a girl, but you never ask, will it be a cat? Generally speaking, we're happy if they're healthy and vibrant and they have all their fingers and toes and eyes and everything works the way it's supposed to. We're ecstatic. How would you react if you planted a baby human and now popped a toaster strudel? Would there be something wrong with the universe at that point? And yet, how often in our life do we have those actions that we expect to be elephant seeds, that they're going to germinate over time, and we don't wait for the elephant to come? Somewhere along the line, we're saying, well, what's going on here? Why is it taking so long? I didn't expect to plant this and have to wait for it to grow. I remember when I was a kid and I wanted a tree to climb on and build a tree house in my front yard. So I went to the local nursery and I asked for a tree, and they brought out this stick in a bucket. And I looked at that stick in a bucket and I went, how long before I can put a tree house in that? And the guy laughed at me and he said, well, your grandpa probably should have started that, because this tree is going to be 10 years before it's big enough to even climb on. And I thought, I'm 10 now. I'll be long gone by then. And I left him with this stick in a bucket. Do we look at our lives and the vision that we have for our lives and look way off into what we want to have, to be, and to do? I want to have that house on the beach. I want to drive that black Mercedes. I want to own that business. And yet somewhere along the way, we get impatient. We expect it to happen now. Or here's the better one. We plant seeds of discord. We have a bad attitude. We have bad habits. We don't show up on time. We're always late. We don't do the work that's got to be done. We expect somebody else to do it. We maintain our victim mentality and wait for revenge. We're waiting for our ship to come in, but we're sitting in the airport. How often do we plant seeds in our life and expect what's going to come will be something entirely different? Yes, sunflower seeds are cheap. They're cheaper than peanuts. But sunflower seeds that come in that little bag with a little shell on them and they're salted or they're barbecue or they're ranch flavor, they're already dead. You can plant all of those you want. They're not going to grow. See, we've got to be planting seeds that, A, are consistent with what we expect to see grow in the future. If you want to see gratitude, plant some. If you want people to be positive and energetic and enthusiastic about your being around them, then be positive, enthusiastic, and energetic about being around them yourself. I want you to become, as was said many, many years ago, the change you want to see in the world. Plant that seed yourself. Make you the ideal friend. Make you the greatest opportunity that people could ever encounter. Allow yourself to be the best in the world by planting daily the disciplines necessary to move forward. Remember, some of the best in the world at what they do, Tiger Woods, he practices his short game every day. Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player ever, practices his free throw every day. The best in the world are the best in the world because they continue to practice. One man was asked when he was in his late 90s, why do you continue to practice your musical instruments? And he said, because I believe I'm getting better. See, if the journey is the more important part, not the destination, if that's what defines success, the journey, then every day we should be planting new seeds on that journey. Every day doing something that later is going to grow up and provide that crop. Now, if you've ever thought about the concept of residual income, that's exactly what's necessary there. You have to understand that you're planting the seeds for an income that's probably not going to pay you today what you need to live on. And that's not even what it's about. It's about planting seeds that you will harvest 5, 10, 25 years in the future. Maybe in the form of mutual funds or annuities or buying gold or buying other precious materials. I don't know. I'm not a financial advisor. But there may be things that you do today that you would look at and go, why isn't that producing? Well, it's not made to. Just like an elephant seed doesn't produce a baby in the same time a human seed does. And cherries don't produce jalapenos. They take time, they take germination periods, they take growth periods, and they produce different things. What seeds are you planting right now in your life that are going to grow up later? Now, while we're talking about that, let me remind you, you have 4 natural resources that no one else can give you or take from you. Your time, your talent, your treasure, and your attention. You might have heard some people say, in fact, my mentor John Maxwell says it all the time, time management is a myth. There really is no such thing as time management. It's kind of like multitasking. It's a way of phrasing something that takes the responsibility off of you. Time management can't be done. We all get the same number of hours in a day, the same number of minutes in an hour, the same number of seconds in a minute. Everyone on earth does. Now, some are given a longer period of time. 10 years, 50 years, 100 years to accomplish a task. Some live to 110 years old. Some are not with us that long. But the reality is the amount of time that you're given in a day is the same for everyone. I can't manage mine to squeeze more hours out of a day. No matter how hard I work, my day is still 24 hours. No matter how much I try to accomplish, my hour is still 60 minutes. That's just the way it works. Now, the question that I have to ask you, though, is, do you manage yourself with the time that you have? That goes back to what we talked about before, relative weight of importance. If I had those scales of justice or a seesaw in front of me, and the only measure that I had there was time, on one side of that I might place the amount of time over a year that I spend on Facebook or watching television, or the amount of time that I spend with my friends or with my family or with my children, or working on personal development, or working on my free throw, or working on growing my skills and my talents to the next level. And if I have to balance the amount of time that I've given to Facebook versus the amount of time I've given to my skills and abilities, where will you fall? Will you find that in the relative weight of importance, you've put more of your time on the scale of Facebook or television or other leisure activities that have no productivity? Or where you find that you've invested, you've planted seeds, you've committed time toward those things that are going to invest in your relationships for the future, invest in your skills, your knowledge, your abilities for the future, invest in strengthening your talents and taking you to the next level for the future? Those are questions you've got to ask yourself. There are some exercises here where the circles are drawn already to be your clocks. For an example, the very first one is a clock. I want you to look at that as your 24-hour window of time, as your day. And I want you to begin to break that down as you look at that top circle. How much, by percentage, of your day do you spend on Facebook, on television, in traffic, learning for personal development or growth, learning better skills, better knowledge, better abilities, perhaps in your job task or in your future goals? What do you do with your time? There's an old adage that says you cannot manage what you do not measure. If you don't keep a calendar in the form of a journal or a day planner or something of that nature, let me recommend right now that you start doing that. Start writing down what you actually do with your time, because here's something that will shock you. If you were to go back right now, start right now, whatever time of day you're listening to this, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning, go back right now and look at what you've done in the last 24 hours. I'd be willing to bet you that there's at least some portion of that time that you'll have to rack your brain to remember what you were doing at that time, because it was so unimportant that you really just don't even remember. Now, if you're one of those very intentional, very engaged, very purposeful people who keeps a day planner, who watches everything that they do with the diligence of saying, this is my time, I can't get any more, and I'm going to invest it the best way that I can. I'm going to plant the seeds of time now so that I can harvest more time later. John Maxwell's father used to tell him all the time, you can either play now and pay later, or pay now and play later. It's your choice, but either way, you're going to pay. Think about that for a minute. When it comes to time, you can't buy it back. But would you rather kill time now and then begin to worry about how will I pay my bills, how will I have my home, or would you rather invest your time now so that it reaps dividends later? So that once the costs are met, once the objectives are met, once you're living your vision and living your dream, you're not worried about those other things anymore, because you've invested your time well now to be the best at the game, to practice the best that you can. That takes us to the next level, though. That's talent. See, there are a lot of people who have abilities that they follow. An example might be myself. I have a very, like I said before, very intellectual, very linear, mathematical type of a mind. It's the way my mind works. I did go to school for electronics engineering. I literally slept through class, and until I failed my final exam, had a 3.82 GPA. Sleeping in class. Because it was that easy for me. I was very capable of it. But it was not something I had a passion for. I hate math. I don't even want my kids to come to me and go, hey, Dad, help me with my homework. I hate math. I can do it naturally, but I don't like it. On the other hand, I love public speaking, and I love coaching, and I love training. I love engaging with people and seeing their faces light up when that aha moment comes. That's what I live for. But just because I enjoyed doing it and I had a natural talent at it was not enough. In fact, John Maxwell has a book called Talent is Not Enough. And I encourage you to read that. If you're very talented in certain areas and you know what they are, pick up that book. Here's what John says in that book. The general theory is talent will get you in the door, but it's character that keeps you there. If you're not willing to work hard to master your talents, to take them to the next level, your talent may get you attention, but it's not going to keep you going. People may notice that you can slam dunk a basketball at 9 years old, But you can't ride on that alone. You still have to practice. You still have to enhance that talent. You still have to find every way that you can to get better. That's why I spend so much time and money investing in my own personal growth, in my mentors, allowing me to become better at what I do. And I challenge you to do exactly the same thing. Whatever the arena of your life is, where your time and your talent come together, invest in more time and more talent by pouring yourself into opportunities to get better at both. Next is your treasure. Now, most people immediately assume when I talk about treasure that I'm talking about your paycheck. While it's very important what you do with your paycheck, and I encourage you to find a financial advisor or at least read some good books. Dave Ramsey is good. Crown Financial is good. There are others out there that can give you great advice on finances. That is not my forte. I want to talk to you about another treasure that a lot of people simply miss. That's your reputation. It's the one thing you cannot afford to squander. I've known men who have built empires, who have millions of dollars that have passed through their hands. In fact, I've known men who've gone from bankrupt to millionaire to bankrupt to millionaire to bankrupt to millionaire multiple times. Now, there may be a reason that they keep getting it and losing it and getting it and losing it. But generally speaking, as long as their reputation has stayed intact, their opportunity has as well. See, it's that guy who goes out there and starts a business and runs it and everyone he knows in the ground and then comes back and tries to start again. No one wants to do business with him. No one trusts him. See, in the world that we live in today, we have what we would call a digital footprint or a digital shadow. And that digital shadow is every search engine you've ever been on is tracking the things that you search. It's also tracking the places that you log in from. You may or may not know that, but if you were to go on to Google from Grandma's house and type in a search for gardening tools, and then go on to Google from the local library near Grandma's house and search for roses and flowers, by the time you've made the second or third search, Google has made some assumptions about your geography and the things that you're searching for, and suddenly you're going to start getting ads for building a flower bed. You might get an ad that'll pop up on the side panel encouraging you to go to Home Depot because they've got a special discount on the little bricks you build around the side of a flower bed. That search technology, that information about you is being tracked in everything you do. It's in your Twitter. And remember, there are people who have lost their political careers, people who have lost their jobs in radio stations and in other media outlets because of comments made on Twitter, because of comments made on Facebook, because of comments made on the open airways. When I talk about your treasure as your reputation, I want you to think back over all the other lessons that we've had up to this point. I want you to think about how important it is that you maintain your attitude, that you be observed with good habits and not dangerous ones or bad ones, that you don't speak to people in a way that would cause them to have negative peg moments in their life, or that you would become the burden that holds them down, that you master those habits in your life that make you the one that's admired, because that reputation is what's going to carry you forward. Let me give you a quick illustration of that. In one of the newest books, The 5 Levels of Leadership, one comparison is drawn between the level 1 leader who has leadership in a position because of his title. I'm the shift manager, I'm the shift leader, I'm the boss of this, I'm the GM of this, whatever. And even at that level, you can go all the way back to kindergarten and remember the kids who would yell at you, "You're not the boss of me." Because at level 1 leadership, if someone hasn't been declared the leader, determined to be the leader by someone else is appointing it over them, or the label or the position that's been given to them, their authority is nothing. Now follow that through the course up to the next level of leader, and the next level of leader, the next level of leader. And somewhere along the way you'll find that A level 5 leader is the leader who can leave company A after whatever period of time and go to company B, and their position of leadership is assumed. Their authority is already recognized. Their influence is already determined. They walk in the door. Can you imagine hiring a Jack Welch? Can you imagine hiring a Gordon Ramsay? Gordon Ramsay doesn't walk into a kitchen and people look at him and go, "Who are you, the new guy?" Gordon Ramsay walks into a kitchen and people go, "Oh boy, the judge is here." See, there's a certain expectation that comes with that level of qualification, that comes with that reputation. That's what I'm encouraging you to plant the seeds of that reputation by being an honorable and noble person that people look at and go, "Man, I want to be like that." Because when you have that reputation, it doesn't matter who your customers are, who your clients are, what your social media footprint looks like. When you have that reputation, it precedes you. It also gives you a lot of backing in moments of questioned integrity. Because I can guarantee you, if you're out in the forefront, there are going to be people who are going to slam on you. There are going to be people who are looking to take you down. Look at politics. It's a very competitive arena. And sometimes the most disadvantaged and damaging comments ever made are lies. When your reputation precedes you, people hear those lies and go, "That's a lie." Because that doesn't sound anything like the man I know. That doesn't sound anything like the woman I know. She would never behave that way. It's having that reputation that is congruent with who you really are and who you say you are and how you see you. But it's also integrity, whether people are watching or not. You've got to protect that natural resource of your treasure, your reputation. No one will get back to you once it's destroyed. It's very hard to rebuild a damaged public image. It's almost impossible to restore a damaged reputation. Finally, your attention. A lot of people think when I talk about time, talent, treasure, and attention, that attention and time are pretty much the same thing. They're not. You've had that conversation where you're standing face to face with someone, and as you're looking them in the eye and you're spilling your heart with them, you realize that they're not looking you in the eye. Ladies, you probably see this more than men notice it, and that's really sad. But generally speaking, men watch everything going on around them, especially other women. They tend to do it even at their own demise, face to face with their own lady. They tend to watch other people going on around them. Now, there are people who are trained for that. That's their purpose. They're people observers, they're security officers, they're Secret Service. You can't get their attention focused on one thing because they're intentionally focused on everything. They're looking for every opportunity for something to go wrong. But when you are in an engagement, a relationship, a conversation, a sales transaction, the attention that you're devoting to that by percentage, the concentrated effort that you're putting into that moment is more important than the amount of time that you're there. Growing up in the 80s, I remember the phrase that started to be thrown around with the idea of latchkey kids, those kids who would come home from school with the key to the home and they'd open the door and walk in and lock themselves in the home and stay there for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours until their parents got home at night. Those latchkey kids began to coin another phrase. It's not about quantity time, it's about quality time. See, there was this myth that was perpetrated then that if I just focus on my kids enough, that I could spend 10 or 15 minutes with them, and that's more important than hours. All right, let me be clear. If you're a parent, your kids don't want one or the other. They want both, and they need both. They need you to be around them because people do what people see, and you can't lead your children to do something that they can't see you doing. They want a role model. They want someone that they can emulate to grow up to be like. But you can't do that if your being around your children means we're going to sit in the living room together and stare at the television for 6 hours. I'm not going to listen to them. They're not going to talk to me. I'm not going to talk to them. They're not going to listen to me. You can't do that if the only time they get to spend with you is you're running from one place to another. So you've got to not just give them your presence and your time physically, you've got to give them your presence and your time emotionally. You've got to engage. You've got to be deeply involved and purposely, intentionally focused on them in that time. Your time, talent, treasure, and attention are natural resources that no one can take from you. They're yours. No one can give them back once you've destroyed them or squandered them either. Plant the seeds today that will grow into your personal development, that will grow into your residual income. Plant the seeds today that look on the package like the picture you want to grow. If I went to the grocery store and I bought a package of seeds and on the outside of that picture were cucumbers and I went and threw them all over my front yard, I would be crazy to then go back to the grocery store and complain when I didn't see flowers all over my front yard. If you have an idea what your future is supposed to look like, plant the seeds that match that future. Begin doing today and every day the things that you have to do to be consistent with your future. And while you're doing that, don't waste your time, talent, treasure, or attention. You cannot get them back when they're gone. Whatever you do, don't settle for the life you were handed. Live a more excellent life.